Welcome to another photo mishmash. I'm Toby.
And I'm Christina.
This is episode 37, Dream Camera. In this episode, we're going to talk about more photos from space, a spacey quadcopter, the EXO mark scores trustworthy, and a whole pile of awesome reader questions.
Start this week by talking about our sponsors and partners. The first one being McKay Academy. We've been doing some traveling with them lately, and we'll be doing some more traveling with them. And you created a video to let people know which trips are coming up that they can sign up for.
That's right. We've got 3 trips coming up that you can join one or both of us on: Montana, Iceland, Greece. We're really excited. Take a moment, watch that video. Link is right down below, and I hope you'll join us. There's just a couple spots left, so if you're considering this, act quickly.
Yep. Second, we have Tiny Prints with a 40% off coupon code.
That's right. Holidays are coming. I just got their catalog this week, full of really nice, high-quality photo cards, and they have given me a 40% off coupon.
To share with you guys.
To share with you all. It is, you're only supposed to use it one time. There's a limited number, but I think they gave me enough that you all will be okay watching this. Link right down below along with that coupon code. Go check them out and do something fun with your prints and do something a little bit higher quality. I was really impressed with the different products that they're offering.
Yeah. And lastly, Squarespace.
That's right. Oh, you're not going to read the rest of that?
Nope.
Okay, so I put out a video this week that showed you just how easy it is to build a professional looking website. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of having a professional looking website in our discussion piece. Really good feedback from folks both on that YouTube channel, on the video, and also on Facebook. A lot of people chiming in saying they have Squarespace. They absolutely love it. It's just really, really easy to make a professional looking website. We are past that stage where you have to know all of this code and how to work this plugin or that plugin. This stuff just works, and it works really nicely. You can save 10% off your order by going to squarespace.com/Toby or going to Squarespace and using the coupon code Toby. One person asked me, they said, how do you get a domain name with Squarespace? Because the one example I showed is kind of that subdomain on Squarespace. It comes with your purchase. So if you purchase even their lowest account level, you get your own custom domain, just like that. And they handle all of that stuff for you. Really nice and easy.
Yep. So let's move on to the week ahead. We are starting officially our giveaway right now.
Right now. Right below this video is a link to go in and enter. But one of the requirements is going to be leaving a comment on this video. What I want to hear from you all is, what do you want under your tree, in your stocking, in the gift box, under the menorah?
Under the menorah?
Do I know what I'm talking about? No.
I mean, I don't know that you don't know what you're talking about.
Just trying to be all-inclusive. Basically, whether or not you celebrate any holidays in the next month and a half, what would you like to receive as a present? Maybe for your birthday. That is one of the requirements. But here's what you can win. You're going to have to sign up for the newsletter. Many of you already are signed up and things. But many of you might remember this. This is that Tenba 14L ActionPack. Made for carrying GoPros, but can carry other things as well. I'm a little torn about giving this away. This bag is fantastic and multi-purpose, and just has so many really nice touches. If you didn't already watch the review, I'll put a link to that down below. But you can get this. And
as a bonus, you might get a Liam hair or 2 on it.
We'll try to. It's pretty clean.
I'm just kidding.
Well, there is that one right there. But that's not it. That's not all. I teased this last week, but showing you more officially, and I'll have a full review of this next week, is GoPro's newest Hero action camera. Not the Hero 4, but just the plain old Hero. Brand new, really nice for the money. You get that along with the starting kit of a little 16 gigabyte SD card for all of your time-lapse and video needs, and of course the head strap and cap mount all right there, all packaged up nicely in this. I will ship this anywhere in the world. So this is a worldwide contest. As long as I'm allowed to ship GoPros there. I think there are some rules about it, but I don't think I'm going to have anybody who enters from places that aren't allowed to have a GoPro shipped to them. So, very exciting. You are the first hearing about this. Link is right down below this video. Go enter. Let me know in the comments what you would like to receive as a gift this year. It can be anything from something little to something gigantic. It doesn't even have to be photographic related, but probably many of you are in that mind since you're watching this podcast. Great.
Yep. So, looking ahead this week, you're going to be reviewing that not GoPro, correct?
That's right, the not GoPro. I mentioned this last week as well. This is the SJ Cam, SJ4000 Action Cam. I've gotten so far as to open the box now. I'll have a full review of it in the coming week. It's, as you can see, it's very GoPro-like. However, it's like the silver, the newest silver, in that it does have an LCD display on the back. It will show you what's going on. I also like that it doesn't make the beep, beep, beep noise that GoPro makes. But here's what's pretty cool about this, and I want to let you know that I'll put a link to buy this right down below. The company that sent it to me wants you all to know that they have a coupon code, and with that coupon code, you can get this for $86.99. Again, I haven't reviewed it yet. I don't know the quality. It doesn't do 4K like the newest GoPros. It's limited to 1080p at 30 frames a second, so not even 60. But it does come with a seriously waterproofed housing, completely compatible with all of the GoPro accessories, and there's a ton of stuff that comes in this box. Tripod mounts, international plugs, bicycle tube mounts, USB cord. It charges via micro USB, not the mini USB. Extra back doors, Velcro bits for Velcroing it to all kinds of things. What do you call these things?
Zip ties?
Zip ties. Extra mount bits. Really nice little thing.
That's a lot of stuff for $89.
More mount bits. Another tripod mount bit. Another plug. Oh yeah, and another nicer tripod mount. I'll pull this out. This is pretty slick. So this is another type of tripod mount that you can insert this into. I like that it has so many different tripod mounts, and then just another attachment. And then some little metal tie downs and 3M sticky pads. It's a lot. It does have Wi-Fi. I've tested that. Actually, I should say I've done more than open it up. I've turned it on. I took a couple pictures of Bean last night with it. I don't know. I have to see what the quality is like before I go say I fully recommend it. But right now, as Christina just said, using the coupon code for $86, hey.
That's a lot of stuff.
If you're looking to stuff somebody's stockings or to stick stuff under the menorah mittens, just made that up. I think it should be a thing though. Menorah mittens?
No.
So, more about that next week. All right.
Cool. And in 2 weeks, it will be the start of another giveaway.
Yeah, so the big giveaway I just announced, the bigger one, the GoPro and the GoPro bag and all the extra bits with it, it's just 2 weeks. So it's not one of these, you don't know if you win in 4 months or not. It's 2 weeks, the Friday after Thanksgiving, which also happens to be Black Friday, which is when I will be glued to the computer, updating Facebook constantly on giving you the best deals. I have to say I've been following along on the Black Friday leaks so far, and folks, there are very rarely good deals on the current model DSLRs. They just don't drop the prices in stores or online very much. $50 maybe here and there, maybe $100 in some cases, which, that's starting to add up. But what you're really looking for is all of the accessories, like the external drives. You often have very good deals and all of the little bits that go along with it. And so I'll be putting together lists and keeping all that up to date soon. But on that day, that giveaway will end. And I actually don't know if I'll start the new one that same day or the following Monday or something like that. But there's more stuff to give away. So I'm excited.
Great. So let's move on to news now. You had a little bit of a scare with Magic Lantern.
I did, yeah.
I
I didn't know if we should put this under the news or not, but
well, it was there.
What's that?
It was there, so we're talking about it.
It's where I wrote it. I had a question this week from somebody asking about installing Magic Lantern on something like a Mobi card. So they have both the functionality of Magic Lantern and a wireless card. And I thought, well, I'll try it. I had heard that it doesn't work on the iFi cards, non-Mobi, because it's not a bootable card. It has to be a card that can boot up in the camera and give it some instructions as it turns on. And I just thought this was interesting. I put it in, started the firmware update, and the camera went black. No LCD, no indication anything was happening. And I waited for about 30 seconds, still no indication anything was happening. And I thought, this is bad. If I pull the battery now, is it in the middle of a firmware update and have I just killed my camera, which I just recently got back, as you all know. So I waited about another 30 seconds. Still nothing. So I pulled the battery, put the battery back in, and immediately the little light, the card reading light started flashing. And I thought, oh no, it's even worse. But it just kept doing that with nothing else going on. So I pulled the battery again, pulled the card out, put a different card in, turned it back on, and it was fine. So I'm taking that as a good lesson that it is pretty hard to brick your camera trying to install Magic Lantern. It seems to have pretty good fail-safe there. But I will not be trying it again anytime soon on an iFi Mobi card. I have to say, I don't really like these cards. I'm thinking about giving this card away too. I still have the little package it goes in. This is the card.
It's a good way to set up your giveaway. I don't really like this. Here you go.
It might work really well for somebody else out there. The reason I don't like it is it's set up to automatically send every picture, every JPEG you take over to your mobile device of choice. That's it. You've got no control over it. I don't shoot that way. I like my iFi Pro card that allows me to hit the rate button, and if I rate a picture, then it will get sent over.
Okay. So on to real and actual news. Well, on to space news, I guess.
Space news.
News of the comet.
Have you noticed the theme here?
No.
Well, we've had 3 space / astronaut related news stories in a row.
All right.
So
let's make it a thing.
Let's make it a thing.
Yeah, so go on. Go ahead.
Well, I don't have a lot to say about this other than I think it's pretty amazing that 10 years ago they launched the spacecraft with the goal of landing it on a comet. 10 years they've been waiting. It's been flew around the Earth a bunch of times, getting up speed, and then slingshot itself way out there and around and caught up with a comet. And then it separated the little, I don't know how to say the lander's name. It's Phillae. Anyway, it's landed on the comet.
It's very cool.
And it sent pictures back.
Really cool.
Now it sounds like it's not the best. It did not do the best job of landing on the comet. It ended up in its harpoons didn't fire. It was supposed to shoot out some harpoons that would then kind of like pull it down to the surface and really anchor it. It seemed that those didn't work, and so it might have touched down and then bounced off again. Now remember, I mean, this thing's must have just a tiny bit of gravity, like barely any. And it has now found its place in this spot that's a little on the dark side. And here is one of the bigger pictures it sent back. Its solar panels aren't getting a lot of light where it's landed, so they're not sure how much more time they're going to have with it, but still pretty cool. Humans landed this on space. Yeah. That's all I wanted to say.
Really cool.
It's very cool. It's pretty amazing that this rock we're looking at is hurtling through space way out there somewhere.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
So there's a new Phantom with a modular gimbal. What is a modular gimbal?
Well, so DJI has announced a new quadcopter, which is pretty sweet. It comes with a 4K camera. It's ready to fly right out of the box, $3,000. Now you think, that sounds like a lot.
That seems cheaper than all the other packages we've seen.
That's right. Well, you have to compare. You look at something like the DJI Phantom 2. Straight out of the box, you can get one for about $800, $900, which really, that's not that bad. Certainly not cheap, but it's not that bad. But that doesn't give you first-person view. That doesn't give you 4K, certainly. That doesn't give you a gimbal.
Okay.
which, as we've learned in flying with David and the McKay Photography Academy in Italy, and also now more recently with Steve, the gimbal matters. That's that little thing that holds the camera down there that moves and keeps the camera and the footage steady. So this is their newest version, the DJI Inspire. Comes with a 4K camera. I imagine the quality is okay. Their cameras that they included in the lower models, it's fine. It's certainly not up at the higher GoPro level, but it's got a modular gimbal that is user replaceable and upgradable, and it is ready to go out of the box with a first-person flying system all included. Although I say that and I don't know if it gives you a little screen too. I think it's just ready for that. You still have to supply the screen. So it's still going to add up. That's how they get you on these things. But one of the other cool features of this guy is it has retractable feet, landing gear. So one of the issues when you're flying is when you turn the camera certain ways, you see the little feet of the copter in most cases. But when this thing takes off, you hit a little button, feet all fold up, and you have a clear 360-degree view underneath without having to worry about that. So I'm putting it on my holiday wish list. We'll see.
Is that a hint?
Well, no, that's too expensive. It would be nice.
This is awkward.
It would. It would be a lot of fun. And it looks very spacey too.
Very much so.
Very futuristic.
Cool. So our next item on the news section is how Kodak's Shirley cards set photography skin tone standard. And this is an NPR article about Shirley cards. Do you want to talk about the Shirley cards?
Well, yes, I do a little bit. This is an interesting story, especially since I'm kind of doing a digital version of this right now.
Are you?
Yeah, with my MPics and my Walgreens pictures.
Oh, yeah. Sort of.
Sort of. So the Shirley card, basically, Kodak, in starting to realize that they wanted all of these places to be able to develop films instead of everything come back to Kodak, and there have been all the whole monopoly issues of the film development, they said, well, how are we going to know that all of these people are developing the film the correct way? And they came up with a fairly smart plan, took pictures of models at their headquarters, and they would then they would develop that, and they would then send out the print and negatives. And they say, make your negatives match this print, and then you'll know your skin tones are correct and basically all the colors are right. And so I thought it was really interesting. One of the kind of bits of the article discussion is that Shirley was white, and so you can see that there were some issues early on, and it wasn't until much later that somebody else was like, we should photograph people of other races too.
Not until much, much later, like over 20 years later.
Which is, disappointing, but that's the way it was. Sound a little glib like that, but
yeah. Well, one of the problems was that people with darker skin wouldn't sometimes show up at all because the meter. Well, I guess it was both the camera and then the printing process. But anyway, but yeah, that's kind of what we do now. And when you sign up for a professional lab, one of the things that they do is, we'll send you 5 free prints. Just send us your files. And it's cool to to take it as like, they're sending me free stuff. But really, what they're trying to do is send you a sample of what their printers print, so that you can compare it against your monitor and make sure that you're getting an accurate representation of what you're seeing on your monitor. So yeah, there sort of is still that, but now it's more custom. People, you send your own pictures and try to match.
Right, and it's tricky, and we've been asked to talk about this some, and Roy is actually, I think, working on a little bit of an article. But you can buy those devices that you calibrate your screen with to make sure your screen is calibrated correctly, and then hopefully when you send off. Now, I mentioned I'm doing a slightly digital version, very low tech. I'm just sending.
Very unscientific.
Well, yes and no. I've sent the same 2 prints off to a handful of photo places, and when I get them back, I'm going to look at them and judge what I think is best.
What was a handful? I thought it was just 2.
Oh, I'm adding one more.
Oh, okay.
So 3 places. Impix, Shutterfly, and Walgreens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I've only gotten Walgreens back. We actually have a Walgreens within walking distance of us, so that's a nice plus, but typically I haven't been very impressed with Walgreens printing. Typically I have been impressed with Impix, but I've never taken the time to go ahead and print the same picture from 2 different places and put it side by side. So I'm going to do that. Take a look and see.
Yep. And the main thing that the calibrator, the monitor calibrator does is it calibrates for brightness and contrast. So one of the biggest problems when you have your photos printed is that the light that you're looking at, the prints, the available light in the room that's illuminating that photo is reflected light. So you're having light bounce off of the print into your eyes, whereas when you're looking at it on the screen, you can control the brightness. You make it bright, and screens are usually brighter than the light that's in the room. So what these calibrators try to do is to measure the light that's available that you use while you edit, and make your screen as dark as that, so that when you get the picture, the light reflected off of the picture will be the same light that your screen is sending to your eyes, if that makes sense. So that's one of the main things that those things do.
Yeah. And if you don't want to buy one of those, do you have any quick tips for?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely have, pick a lab, have photos printed, get them back, and then hold the prints up to your monitor and see how they compare. So is your monitor a lot brighter than your print? Is it a lot darker? It's usually probably a lot brighter than the print. So I would just turn the brightness down as much as you can. And if there is a huge difference in color, then there's a million possibilities why that could be.
And you mentioned my test is very unscientific. My sample size is tiny. If I really wanted to do this, I'd send the same 2 prints to these different places a couple of times to see how much variation there is within a place. Because at Walgreens, maybe they changed the cartridges recently, and or the print setup, and so you're going to get slightly different. Hopefully not, and especially from the better labs like Impix, Shutterfly 2 is better usually. It should be fairly consistent.
Yep.
So something to think about. And a 4x6 is like 40-50 cents, and then tack on $1 for shipping or so. Really reasonable. Take the time to run a couple test prints. Give yourself the time. This time of year, if you're thinking about cards and things like that, it can be really tricky because you're like, oh, I got to get this out. But give yourself a little bit of buffer time and try to get yourself some samples before ordering wholesale. Especially if you're trying to do it from one of the cheaper places.
Right. Well, one of the problems about the cheaper places, not to go on and on about this, is that, they're, not to make assumptions about every place, but for the most part, there's high turnover rate in the people that man the machines. And so while they have the ability, when you send a photo, to see the photo on the screen and then to see it in print, they don't really take the time. Like, these things need to be calibrated regularly. And so I don't think that everybody's going to do it, to the extent that needs to be done. And so you are not getting consistent results over time.
Now, a lot of places when you upload have an option to automatically color correct. Would you recommend that people do that or not do that, or it depends?
It depends. If you're just sending a raw image, or mostly raw image, I would say let them color correct. Otherwise, if you know what you're doing and you've edited the image yourself, I wouldn't color correct.
Great. All right. Next article on our story is, do you believe DxO marks scores? Now, this is a very timely article. All the links to everything we're talking about is right down below. You should take some time to listen to or read the NPR article. Tom Hogan, he has a couple different websites. DSLR Bodies is one of them. Another, I mentioned last week, Roger at Lens Rental, Roger Sicola, I think is how you say his name. Tom is another one of those people who is very scientific, very detailed in their writing. And if you're interested in the more geeky side of photography, somebody you should read. And, I don't want to say I jumped on this bandwagon last week, but I certainly mentioned the 7D Mark II and DxO giving it a score similar to 5-year-old Nikon bodies. I just mentioned that, and I feel bad that I did for a couple of reasons. One, I usually don't refer people to DxO Mark scores because what might seem like a large number difference translates in real world to very little, sometimes imperceptible differences. Sometimes, in some situations, you can certainly see differences in DxO Mark scores, but in a lot of cases, you can't. And if somebody is interested in a certain camera for a certain feature set, they're going to be happier with that camera, even if it may not be the highest DxO Mark score out there. Also, reading more into that article, reading that article more about the comparison, it was really at the lower ISOs, and at the higher ISOs, the Canon definitely pulls ahead. Again, we're comparing it to a 5-year-old Nikon camera. But Tom goes really nicely in detail into exactly what DxO Mark does, and they are they're trying to be a lot of different things, and they present themselves as this impartial. I'm basically reading from Tom's here. This is THOM is his name. Impartial, numeric-oriented testers. They also present themselves as reviewers, which is where you're allowed to share your opinion a little bit more, or often do. And they sell their test equipment and software suites to camera companies. Nikon, Canon is not a purchaser. And they also sell software for correcting lens distortion and noise too, I think. So I thought this article was very good and very timely, both because I personally had mentioned this last week, and also it does sum up my feelings quite nicely in general about DxO Mark scores, and that I don't think you should put a lot of weight. Certainly something to consider in the great scheme of selecting a camera, but when you see this camera comes in at 77, this camera comes in at 83, you shouldn't go, that one is so much better, the 83.
Right. I mean, I think it's being presented as misleading information in a way, just based on how the graphs are laid out. I mean, the person that makes the graphs has control over how the graph is perceived. I don't remember if we looked at this together, but I saw an article that, showed two different graphs, and the conclusions that you came to from looking at those graphs was starkly different, but they were actually the same exact data, just represented in different ways.
Right.
So the numbers that the DxO Mark scores give people, when you don't have any context to them and you're just looking at the numbers, what does it really mean? So you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt and just, I don't know, I think see how the camera performs in the real world and not in super controlled testing environments that, we will never ever shoot in. So
right. Yep. And we're not saying that DxO is out here to make Canon look bad necessarily, but they are out here to generate clickbait type headlines,
right,
that people then go read, so people find out about DxO Marks.
And they are offering, a seemingly helpful service for people who are looking to purchase a camera. The problem is that most people will just look, I've done this, we just go to the website and we'll compare, and it's like, oh, dynamic range, this one's 72, 85, 71, and we're like, oh, well, I want the one that has 85 because 85 is a better number, right? It's a higher number. Yep. So, but what conditions did they test these in? What exactly did they do? What does that mean? What do these numbers mean to us?
What does it translate to in real world? Yeah. Yep.
So it's a little of a balance, a little bit of a balance.
But this reminds me that about this time each year, when people are really starting to camera shop as the holidays come close, friends don't let friends use SnapSort. It seems like a useful place, but I can tell you the number of times that I have gone to their page, someone sent me their page and said, I'm trying to figure out these two cameras, which one is better, and they've linked me to SnapSort. And they have errors often in their stuff. And not only do they have errors, but they often they make comparisons between two cameras on items that don't make sense. Every time I've gone there, I've seen something that I think is misleading or unhelpful or completely factually wrong. So if you know of somebody out there trying to figure out what camera they want and they're using SnapSort, tell them, no, don't do that. What should they do? They should come talk to me. Or Roy or Ruby. They should come to my page. Are you looking up? You don't have screen, so no one can see what you're doing.
They're saying the D5300 is better than the 6D.
Based on what comparison?
It doesn't really say.
Yeah, so. And for some people, the D5300 would be better than the 6D. But image quality wise, yeah, it's just they vary. Well, I mean, the idea of the site is genius, and I imagine they are making a lot of money because it is the site that often comes up first or near the top when you're searching 2 cameras versus.
But it's not very personalized.
But it's not personalized. Bean's upset about it too. I don't know if you can hear that. And as I said, it has errors often.
All right, well, that was our news.
I had one more news bit.
Oh.
Talking about errors and things often. I love Consumer Reports. I don't know if you all get Consumer Reports, but their latest issue is kind of the best gear of the year. And I was very interested to see what they had for digital photography. I'll be coming out with my own lists over the next couple of weeks. And under digital photo cameras, in the splurge section, they have the GH4. We loved the GH4. But listen to the reason why. Although pricey, this mirrorless camera captures stunning stills, even in low light. Now, there's a lot of reasons that the GH4 is at the top of my list for just a spectacular camera. Capturing stunning stills in low light is not one of its strengths when you compare it against other $2,300 cameras.
Really?
Yeah, it's only got a micro four thirds sensor.
So?
So
It can still be a good sensor.
Well, it is a good sensor, but if you're comparing it against other cameras that are $2,300, there are clear winners in low light. It's one of the first that can take impressive videos in 4K at 30 frames per second. It has a touchscreen and built-in Wi-Fi. Yeah,
all right.
Those things are true.
You should write a letter to
I
Consumer
should.
Reports.
You know, one of my favorite parts of Consumer Reports is that back page where they have the little mistakes. This one is kind of weak, except for they have somebody, dental flossers, removes food and plague. So if you have the plague, get those flossers.
Get those flossers.
And you'll be healed up.
All
Plagueless.
right. Moving on to our discussion. You're going to talk briefly about the 7D Mark II, correct?
Yeah, well, you know, somebody in reader questions asked for more. I really don't have much more to say at this time other than I've been really enjoying using the 7D Mark II. It feels really nice in the hand. I had a couple videos that came out about it this week. People asked to hear the silent shutter, what the high-speed silent shutter sounds like.
It's not that exciting.
Talk it up. Let's hold it out here. Okay, that's the silent shutter. I don't really have anything else to say about it at this time. I'll have more information coming out next week. Oh, the little video that went out about mashing the AF on button and the other button you can assign to AI Servo. I would love to be able to do that on the 5D Mark III. That would be really nice when the bride is walking down the aisle. Mash that down. Somebody else wrote the exposure meter isn't displayed on the LCD. Sometimes, always. I need more time with it.
So, but you did do a comparison video, right?
Well, yes, versus the 70D. I did my early opinions of this and versus the 70D. You know, for most people, most normal people that are interested in stepping beyond the Rebel series, I think the 70D is that sweet spot, especially now that it's been out for a while and the prices come down a little bit. That's a lot of camera for the money. Sports, action, wildlife, absolutely, this is what you should step up to.
Cool. All right, well, our real discussion topic today is what is our dream camera?
Yes, I'm totally stealing this idea from MKBHD. I think that's how you say it. He's the young man. He's got an awesome tech channel on YouTube, and he recently partnered up with The Verge. And I guess he does this each year. This was the first year I saw it, which is basically where he looks back at the cell phones of the past year and says, what pieces, what bits and design elements from each of these would I take to make, my perfect phone right now? I thought, let's do that with cameras. Let's take a moment. And I mentioned that to you this morning, and you said, you're not so...
I am not a morning person.
Oh, that was it. I thought it was you're not so... Well, I knew that. Now, they all do too. I thought it was more... Now they're all thinking back to those Italy vlogs, thinking, well, she doesn't look terribly awake at night either, so when is she awake?
Right now.
Okay. I thought it was because you're not really interested in the tech side of things as much.
I'm not. I mean, I am, but I'm also not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in the sense that I kind of like to talk about it, but I also am not really coveting or lusting after really a ton of gear these days, because I feel like I want to focus more on taking pictures rather than like getting gear.
I think that's great.
So anyway,
yes.
But if I had to choose, I mean, that's not to say that I don't have any ideas for what a great camera that I would love would be like. So do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. So far, what I have thought about as my perfect camera is the sensor of the A7R,
mm-hmm.
the Sony A7R, with a great dynamic range. The 7D Mark II body, or the 5D Mark III body, because I don't like that pop-up flash. I mean, I like it, but I don't like
right.
it.
You like to play with it,
right?
As people noticed last week.
The autofocusing system of the 7D, you don't do it as well as I do. Don't even try. The autofocusing system of the 7D Mark II. What else? And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Would you like Wi-Fi?
I don't care about Wi-Fi. I know you really care about Wi-Fi, but I don't care about Wi-Fi.
So now you've approached this from a camera that you'd want to use for weddings.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to approach this from a camera that I want to use as my everyday walk-around camera. So immediately I'm going to go to a small size. I think we have to try to. I want to hear from you all too. Your bits of dream camera mix up, and we're not dreaming into the future. We're keeping it current, so it's got to be pieces of cameras or technology that are current. And I also think you should think about price. So you could say, well, I want the internals of the 1DX. Well, then you're probably going to get about a $4,000 or $5,000 camera, especially if you shrink it down even more. Well, you didn't say this, but I think we assumed you said body. I want a Canon mount, so I want to be able to use all my Canon lenses on it. But I do want it to be small, and quite portable. I think the Fuji X-T1 size body is very nice. Small enough that it can pretty much go anywhere with you, but large enough that it has room for customization. And I want a couple of nice customizational buttons on there, like the Olympus OMD EM1. And I want a hybrid viewfinder, electronic and optical.
Yeah.
Be able to switch between them like that Fuji offers. Sensor, it doesn't, I don't have to be totally greedy and say it has to be a full frame sensor. I'm okay with an APS-C sized sensor. I don't think I want to go smaller than that. What APS-C size sensor? The Sony. Those are really nice. Or the Fuji. That's really nice too. I'd be happy with either of those. I do want Wi-Fi. I want Wi-Fi that is one button push. I've taken a picture. I'm looking at the picture. I push a button and it goes to my phone. That works sometimes in the Sony. I've had that success. You can also drag your phone across that little NFC chip. That works as well. How fast? It doesn't need to be very fast. Focusing, well, it would be nice if it had the 7D Mark II focusing system. Would be really sweet.
Yep.
But it doesn't need that fast a burst rate. 3-4 frames a second. That's plenty for
I would
general
agree
walk
with
around
that.
camera.
Yeah, even for work, I would agree with that. I don't really like having the ability to just fire too many shots.
Right.
I don't feel like I've ever really missed any important shots, and I mean, knock on wood, obviously, but just be prepared. Yeah, you
Right.
don't really need,
Well,
unless
even
you're
with-
photographing animals and sports, I
Right.
feel like.
Yeah, for weddings. There are a few key moments. We're going to talk, I hope this video comes out before the holidays. We want to sit down and talk about kind of the bare minimum wedding kit we recommend, because we've been talking about putting that together. And there are a few key moments where I think you do need to have a camera that has a little bit more of a buffer, but you don't need 7D Mark II. You're going to end up with 5,000 pictures, and half of them are all going to be the same. And that just makes a lot of work for you editing-wise.
Yep.
So, what's your dream camera? What do you want? What kind of lens system? I know that I'm giving up a lot of my small size by saying Canon mount, but that would work really nicely for me. And when I want to go small, I throw on the 24 or the 40, and I'd be happy walking around those with those lenses. Yeah. So, do we have another discussion piece?
We do not. We are on to reader questions now.
Oh, I thought we were going to do this. We're going to skip that?
Oh, well, it wasn't on the rundown.
Where are we? 14 thing. Let's do it next week.
Okay.
We'll do that next week. And we will move on to... Oh, before we get to reader questions, let's talk. I shared this photo yesterday on Instagram as part of my black and white challenge. And can I just say for a moment, I'm having a blast looking at everybody's images that are tagging them DPR BW for the black and white challenge. And I'm sharing out each morning. I haven't shared out my one this morning yet. Of an image I pick. I think I'd like to continue this, not every day, but maybe once a week, share an image of a certain tag. But I did a selfie last night. Now I set it up mostly, but then you did come help, so it's really not completely a selfie. But people,
You mean I set it up mostly and then you took the picture?
I had that flash there. I had the flash behind me.
But who put the softbox on it?
Okay.
And set it up?
Is the softbox within reach?
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right there. So I just a couple people asked how was this taken, and I just wanted to show briefly how it was taken. Will you hold that, please? And this. So you're seeing the picture now. Let's switch over to my highly scientific B&W selfie picture. I did this in Google Draw, which was so easy to do. I'm the little blue dude standing here up against this. This little softbox, who makes this?
LumaQuest.
LumaQuest. And why did you buy this? Because this is yours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought it for lighting stuff.
Okay.
It's just a little softbox. It's a portable softbox. So, you know, in a pinch, back when I was still exploring strobe lighting and stuff, I would just pop this on and then get it really close to my subject. And then it creates kind of cool light. So it, you know, that controls the spill of the light so it doesn't just go everywhere, and it makes the actual light a little bit bigger so that if you get it close enough to your subject, you get soft light on their face. And you just stick a speed light, and it has these Velcro things that you can stick Velcro on your speed light and then just stick this on, which is what I used to do when I used it. And then it also comes with a Velcro strap that you can just like kind of secure it around here. So I don't have the Velcro stuff right now, but I'm just gonna do my best to set it up and show you guys. And this is how it was set up, just like on the right.
Very close.
Feathered away.
What power was that on?
I don't remember.
Oh, I think it was pretty low.
It wasn't pretty low.
Oh. Okay.
It was about it was close to 132 of a second or 164 of a second.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly.
So you can see that one right here in the picture. And I had one behind me. It was actually tucked in the waist belt of my pants to
Very high tech.
Yes. All the flash stands are in the car and too lazy to go get them. That light separated me from the background just a little bit. And then there was a third flash on the camera that wasn't firing. We were using 600s. And so they can all talk wirelessly to each other. So really the third flash's job, and you can see that one sitting on the camera with the little no sign on it, was simply communicating to the other two to fire. And I'm explaining that because somebody said, really? It took you 3 flashes to make that image? We could have done it we actually took it with a 7D Mark II. So we could have used the pop-up flash and optically fired those other flashes. But I'm very used to the 600, so that's how I set it up.
You couldn't create that image with fewer than 2 flashes. So 3 doesn't seem that excessive. You know, we could have even had 4 and added a little bit of light on the other side just to, you know, bring up more detail on the other side of your face. Or we could have just done a reflector. That would have been easy enough. But yeah, I mean, it would take at least 2 if you want to separate your subject from the background and then you want to light the subject's face. So 3 doesn't seem that excessive. And yes, this could have been done way cheaper. Like, you don't have to use 600 RTs. You can use, you know, radio transmitters.
Those Yongnuo ones that I've mentioned before
and
work very well.
flashes too. So, you know, it's totally doable. And this thing I think is only like $50, maybe a little bit less.
Okay.
It's not super expensive.
Would you recommend it to somebody who is looking to have some type of modifier for their flash?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, you know, get into portraiture and you want a softbox for your flash, I would definitely recommend these. I mean, if you're doing just portraiture, you know, close up, this is a great way. You can do a lot with this stuff in a reflector. Like 2 of these in a reflector, you can do a lot. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend them.
Okay. Good.
All right. So let's go over some reader questions.
The first one is Damon says, thanks for doing the Squarespace tutorial. Looking for more. Yeah, I hope to do some more on that soon because there's all these little things you can do as well. And I was searching plugins last night. So there's a lot of Squarespace tutorials that are out there and could be done. Thank you, Damon. JCB wants to know, is it worth upgrading from the T5i to the 70D or the 7D Mark II for general photography, or should I just continue to invest in lenses?
I don't know, JCB, you've been making some really nice pictures with whatever gear you have, so I don't know. I'd say get a new lens.
Yeah.
Don't seem, or just keep shooting, keep making more pictures.
If you said, you know, there is a increase in quality at the higher ISOs between the T5i and the 70D. And as far as I can tell, the 70D and the 7D Mark II are very similar, maybe another third of a stop better at some ISOs. A third of a stop is really pretty insignificant. And if you're putting a nice lens on there, it completely erases the difference between the 2 of them. I would still go with lenses and hold on to that body. Those lenses are going to keep their value. Bodies decrease in value. Only if you're interested in some more action or video work, then those 2 cameras offer some nice advantages. But for just kind of general purpose photography, T5i is fine.
Yep.
I know it's not, you know, sexy. Doesn't have that, you know, like a new camera.
Right.
It's fun, but lenses.
If you feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's not great. I feel like, you know, when you need a new camera, you're kind of hoping that that camera is going to take you to the next level, but it's good to understand that that's not going to do it for you. It's going to be you practicing more and taking more photos and exploring the gear that you have more. So I would say it's probably not a good thing to condition yourself to a reward for every time that you want to be inspired. Just get a new camera, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I can understand the feeling of wanting to upgrade, especially if, you know, if you're able to sell your T5i and, you know, get a little bit of cash from it and you want to upgrade. But you should have, you know, very specific reasons for why you should upgrade. You know, something should be lackluster, I guess, or missing from your photography experience. Figure out what that is and then see how you can address it with a new camera.
Okay. Great.
Next question, more on the 7D Mark II, please, or is that asking too much? We already went over that.
Right now, Phil, it's asking too much. I will have more information out next week.
Next question, Sigma 18 to 300 versus Tamron 16 to 300.
All right, first off, those of you who watch often probably might know this, I've said it before, I have a little auto response where I type big lens, and then my little computer says, and it puts in this paragraph that says, generally I'm not a fan of the do-it-all lenses. You make sacrifices. Although I recognize their convenience, you make sacrifices in image quality. That said, I was pretty impressed with the Tamron 16 to 300, and if you really want that convenience, that lens offered a lot to like. However, I haven't put my hands on or seen, I've been able to compare with the Sigma 18 to 300, but it is in their new line of lenses. It's the updated model. I suspect that it's going to be very good and probably a little bit better than that Tamron, although I bet it's hard to tell the difference between the two of them in general day-to-day photography. I haven't even looked at the prices. What are the price differences? So I might try to talk about that. You are not the first person or the only person that has asked about these two specifically. This is the new Sigma Contemporary. Comes in at about $580, and the Tamron is at $630. So the Tamron's a good bit more. Oh,
That feels like
there's a rebate, so it's $599. So they're almost exactly the same price.
That feels like not a ton of money for a lot of focal length to me. I feel like in terms of value, are you really getting good quality out of that?
Well, you just said you're getting a lot of focal length, so your value for your focal length is great.
Okay, yeah, but image quality is what I'm saying.
Well, again, the Tamron was not worse than the kit lenses for the most part. So if you're just shooting with a kit lens and you really hate having to change from the 18 to 55 or the 55 to 250, then sure.
All right.
Do it all.
Next question.
I'll be talking about it more. Next question.
Night photography and long exposures. Which ND filter do you guys like the most and use most? And what tips and tricks would you give to a newbie at tripods and long exposures? I hope you're not using an ND filter for night shooting because you're making your life a lot harder. But you take it away because you're the expert in this.
I'm an expert.
Area.
I think I remember somebody saying last night during the picture, I'm tired of being the brains of this operation.
I was joking, and I was joking.
It hurt. But now she made it up by
That's
calling me
you have
an
a
expert
fragile
in public.
ego.
So I don't know why you would be using an ND filter at night. ND filters typically cut down the light, and they're used often and during the day to allow you to get a longer exposure. So to blur water or to impart a sense of motion in your photograph, of people moving, things of that sort. The only reason I could see that you might want to use one at night is to get a super long exposure so you can, people can basically erase themselves. Anything moving completely through the frame will be not there at all. But it's basically like wearing sunglasses at night, and only the stars do that, and they do that because they're stars. And is that what we call them these days? Stars? Not the things in the sky, but the people on movies and TV shows. Anyway, celebrities. That's the word I was looking for. So, don't use your ND filter. Tripods. Yes. I think Giuseppe just had a bad experience with a tripod this week. Even really good tripods can be unstable in some conditions, and you should get yourself a decent one. The Dolica budget ones are good, and they do this as well. They have a little hook on the bottom of the tripod that allows you to hang something like your camera bag or a small bag with rocks in it. I mean, bring along a plastic grocery bag and pick up a couple rocks from wherever you are and then hang it there. And this just kind of anchors, like that poor little comet lander is trying to do, anchors it down more and is less likely to tip over and also dampens vibrations. So you really want to watch out for any type of vibrations that's happening when you're doing these longer, slower shutter speeds. And actually there's this kind of real danger point of from like 1/10 of a second down to about a second. That's where you can have vibrations that mess it up. from a second up to 30 seconds, most of that stuff is canceled out. Maybe you know there's a tiny vibration during that period of time, but because its sensor is glaring at the objects non-moving all the rest of the time, it gets sharper. So hang that. Long exposures, shoot raw, so you can do the noise reduction, turn the noise reduction off in camera. You do that after the fact. And then what are you trying to achieve with these long exposures? Kind of cool light trails and things like that. A lot of practice, trial, playing. Follow up, and I'm happy to chat some more about it.
Yep. Okay, with winter coming back, any hints or techniques for shooting in the snow would be good. So we've talked about this, I think, a handful of times. So I think what we should do is a think before you click video when we have the first snowfall on tips on shooting with the snow. And so we'll get back to you on that.
Compensate your exposure. It's going to want to make the snow gray. Keep a battery in an inside pocket to keep it warm.
Yep.
And watch last week's for our helpful tips to Roger on how to avoid the condensation.
Yes. Next, Scott Gabrielli says, I would like to hear your opinion on formatting a portfolio. When visiting a web page, most viewers do not go beyond the first page. Should I have a general gallery with a sample of images from the other categories, as I do now on his website? Have my first page be on one of my galleries, or possibly, okay, I'm not going to finish reading this because it's a long question, but I get the gist of it. And while we cannot offer you a full critique on your portfolio, and we're not going to do that right now, it is something we can discuss, a full portfolio.
Are you telling me or them?
Both. Both. I mean, I think that it's helpful to do the single image critique.
I know it's something.
But at the same time, I think it would also be helpful to do a full portfolio, full body of work critique. Because I think that's really important.
I've been a little reluctant to do it because I don't want to feel like a copycat because there are other photography teachers out there that do it. But I think we have a lot to say, you especially, in having built your portfolio, looking at lots of them.
And being very critical.
And being very opinionated and critical and being the brains of this operation. Yes, I think it is something that we should offer in the future. But can we address the general kind of question?
Yeah.
I think it's a great point.
I'll give you 3 tips. That's what I'll give you.
Great.
Pick less is more. Pick fewer photos and pick the best photos, your favorite photos. Your portfolio is as strong as your weakest image. So if you have an image that you're unsure about or you're including because you think people might want to see it, don't. Include the pictures that you love the most, that you think are the best. Have somebody look through your portfolio, have them pick the top like 50% of images, maybe 70% if you have few images to choose from, but less is more. That's my first tip. Do you have one?
I want to add on to that, have somebody look through the portfolio that's not a family member.
Yeah.
Family members and friends love your pictures.
Yeah. They're going to be really nice to you. And that may feel good, but it's not going to be helpful. It's not going to make you a better photographer. I mean, it will encourage you. So from that point of view, I mean, if you don't have your friends and family saying that you rock, then you don't want to, how can you know that you want to do this? If you don't have that positive reinforcement.
This makes me think of all of those American Idols at the beginning where they do that terrible thing of the people that are horrible singers that come up and sing, and they're like, my mom always told me I was good. No, don't listen to your mother. She's your mother. That's her job to say that.
Right, but good mothers also don't let their kids go to American Idol and sing if their voice sucks. Okay, tip number 2. I find it a little odd that people aren't going past your homepage. You should have enough content on your homepage that gives the viewer an idea of what you do. Like, the goal of your homepage is to tell people who you are. So your homepage should have, like 5, maybe 7 pictures that tell people what type of photography you do. It should have information about you, so it should have text about you. It should have your address, your email address, information for people to contact you, and then there should be links up at the top that take people to a contact page, to an about page that's more detailed. Maybe you have a couple other portfolios like personal work or whatever other category of photography. etc. I am seeing now right on your page that you have a lot of links and long exposure. So you need to really figure out what type of photography you want to do, which is a really big question. But figure that out and have fewer links and try to get people to contact you, to know more about you. Tell people how much experience you have, because that's really what people want to know when they want to hire you, is, you know, your accolades, or accolades, is that the right word? Yeah. How long have you been doing this? What type of photography you enjoy most? What type of coffee you like to drink, etc. You know, that's obviously not necessary, but
well, I think, you know, it's tough because I think we're talking to an audience, some of who just want a nice portfolio and some of who are looking for work. And in those cases, if you are looking for work, the images that you have on your page should be the type of work you're looking for.
Right.
And at first that's a catch-22, because if you want to do that work but you haven't yet, how do you get those images? Well, that's where through friends of friends you hustle. And you find people that will allow you to shoot maybe for free or for very reduced prices.
And you build your portfolio.
And you get those starting images there. And remember, you can be free for a very short time. I've been talking with Roy about this because he's building up within his town this group of people that value his photo skills, but there are still, you know, those who want to say, oh, come do this for free for me, and, you know, you want to build your portfolio. Well, you really only need to build your portfolio so far. And then you should start charging for your time.
Yeah. So, and if you just want to have a portfolio of pictures just for your own sake, then I think you have a lot more freedom to do what you want. But you can't expect people to go past the first page, because if they're not interested straight away, then they just don't like your photography, and, you know, that's that. So, you know, you have to, I guess, sort of find the right audience. And if you're not really looking to do that from a professional point of view, from like a make money point of view, then you just, you know, that'll happen slowly over time. Okay. And my third tip, my last tip, keep it really simple, which you've already done that. Just keep your website as simple as possible, like no graphics or music or anything like that. People, they want to go there for the pictures. Make it, you know, the site should be pretty intuitive. Like, people should be able to not have to click around too much to find how to contact you or see more of your work. So, you know, it looks great.
And this is a nice example of a Squarespace site as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so next question. Jay Turn says, does the level of improvements from the 7D to the 7D Mark II make you guys excited for a 5D Mark IV, or do you worry it would only have incremental improvements? I worry that it will only have incremental improvements. In short.
But, you know, I'm not staying up at night about this. I think the improvements will be enough that well, now I'm starting to worry. I think the improvements will be enough that I will be happy continuing to use the 5D Mark IV for our wedding work. If they're not, that'll be disappointing. We should hear in, I think, mid-March is the rumor of when we're probably going to hear about the 5D Mark IV.
Yep.
I don't expect it to have 4K video. I don't. But it better be a nice new sensor in there, and the focusing should be updated as well.
Yeah.
The Nikon D750 is arriving today for my review, so it's going to be a busy couple of days.
I'm excited about that.
We've just heard so much about this camera.
You Nikon complainers saying that we don't have enough Nikon stuff.
Well, they're true. You can't
I mean,
point
yeah,
the finger
it is
at
true.
It's true.
That's what I'm saying.
We know Canon, and that's where we come from.
We're trying. Yeah. We're taking your advice.
So Jay, I am a little nervous about it. Yes, I'll say that it may have. Gumunder, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right, said, why didn't you just take your 70D and STM lenses to Italy? And that's a great question, and it was something I considered, but two reasons. One, I wanted something very small that I knew I would take with me everywhere, and the A5100 fit that slot nicely. And two, I wanted something different as both to review and know more about cameras. And so that's why I settled on decided on the A5100.
Yeah.
The 70D with a little prime lens, like 24, if the 24 had been out at that time, would have been wonderful. Speaking of that should be arriving Monday. I'll be talking about that soon as well. If you didn't notice this week, you guys got a video every single day, and one day you got two.
Next question. Vera Conley. Let's celebrate that. Yep. Okay. What's going on with the 60? Will there be a Mark II or another entry-level full frame? I think that was discontinued, wasn't it? Wasn't the 60 discontinued?
There's rumors that the 60 has been discontinued, and so there should be a Mark II. I would love to see it match the Nikon D750 articulating screen. 60 is a very nice camera for general travel and photography. The center focus point's very good. The ones outside that are a little bit slow and pokey, but it's full frame. It's nice. It's not great for video, so it'll be interesting to see. Yes, there should be a 60 Mark II. I haven't heard much about it though.
Ubaldo Flores. Is it fair to compare the Sony a6000 versus the 7D Mark II? Similar frame rate, APS-C, DxO Mark gives the a6000 a higher score, 82.
Stop reading that.
So rewind, go back to our little discussion about DxO Mark.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about that. Except I'll say that the sensor in the a6000, remember I just said that's my pick for a dream sensor. Those sensors in that Sony, they're really, really nice. And so straight up image quality side by side, I haven't compared, but I would give the a6000 a little bit of an edge, a little bit. Is it fair to compare them? Because the frame rates are similar and DxO Mark scores, APS-C. In some cases, yes, but in many cases, no. Because remember, we've got that. We should make it a job to have every episode have a space news and an excuse to listen to the burst rate. The a6000 have a similar rate. It does not have nearly as deep a buffer, and it does not have the focusing chops, the ability to track quickly moving objects in focus over that burst rate nearly to the degree that the 7D Mark II has. I wasn't terribly impressed with the a6000's higher speed focusing. A lot of out of focus frames. The 7D Mark II, it's getting focus, and it's getting focus quickly and tracking objects in focus. So on that comparison, they're very different cameras. Also, built like a tank, weather sealed, built to really withstand a lot of abuse. A6000, it's built to be small, go anywhere with you. So, in some respects, they share some similarities, but really they are quite different cameras. Everyday walk-around camera, I'd pick the a6000 in a second. This is starting to get heavy, and I don't need that to walk around generally. A6000 also has nice Wi-Fi. This does not, unless you put an Wi-Fi card in there, but not Magic Lantern on it.
You done?
Yes.
Okay. Next question. Michelle Bote. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. I would love to know if when using a speed light, it is normal for a photo to get washed out if shooting the subject against the sun. It used to work for me, then I dropped the flash, and now all pictures against the sun are washed out when
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but when you have part of your question being, I dropped it and now it works differently.
Well, okay. I need a lot more information to be able to answer this question. Were you on ETTL? Were you controlling the level of exposure? Have you made sure that the exposure is centered? Like what condition, are the conditions different? Is it a lot sunnier? Is the background a lot brighter? Like there are so many variables that could affect this outcome, not necessarily that the speed light is broken.
Right.
So.
And based on your question, so we're trying to figure out, have variables changed, or is it just the fact that it's broken? Typically, no, they should not be washed out. The camera is pretty smart, but spot metering?
See, that's what I'm saying. We can't say for sure. We have no idea how he's metering.
She.
Or how...
Michelle? Oh, he? I don't know. Sorry.
I think it's he.
Okay.
We have no idea how he's metering. We have no idea what the conditions are. We have no idea
what can we suggest?
If the flash exposure compensation is up or down. I can't tell you because we don't know.
Check your flash exposure compensation. Make sure it's centered. Try some spot metering.
Don't try spot metering. No? That's going to wash out. Yeah, that's going to wash out your...
Face? Really? If you spot meter on the face?
If you flash somebody with a speed light, in their face and they're backlit, they're heavily backlit, and you measure for the skin tone, you're going to get a lot of light.
Okay. What should we suggest that they do?
You already did.
Okay.
Check your flash exposure compensation.
Come
back and tell us if that works.
Try dialing it down and seeing if you get pictures that are more in liking. If you dial it down and you're still not getting it, then I would call that flash broke. Okay. Orlino, do we think mirrorless cameras is the way to go now that image quality is on par with DSLR? As I observed, more pro photographers had switched to mirrorless. Well, we're getting these headlines about once a week of so-and-so is switching to mirrorless. We have to keep in mind many of these people are being sponsored as they start to move over and they got dollar signs in their eyes. But that is not to say that, again, walk around camera, a mirrorless camera is absolutely fine. In some professional situations, a mirrorless camera is absolutely fine. I think at this time, DSLRs are giving you the most versatility still, but at a sacrifice of weight and heaviness. I find myself recommending the A6000 and other mirrorless cameras quite often to people. Most people find my channel though through the T4i, T5i, D5200, D5300 videos I've put up that have been very popular. So a lot of people come thinking they want a DSLR, and it's hard to change their mind. I have them watch the A6000 review and they come back and they say, yeah, I want a DSLR still. They don't always have good reasons, other than I think people have felt that that is the default standard for a while. But simple answer, Orlino, is yes. We're getting a low battery warning on the thing. I think we got one. Oh yeah, Walter. Walter needs to clean poison oak from his camera gear. Walter, that sounds terrible. I'm sorry about that. I wrote back to you. Rubbing alcohol can remove poison oak, and it should be safe to rub on your camera. It should not be wet enough that there's any drippy drops. You're just kind of brushing cotton swabs or something that isn't going to leave.
And wear gloves.
And wear gloves. And you're going to do a little test first though. Rub the rubbing alcohol on a part of the rubber and let it dry and make sure it doesn't change color and get all nasty.
Or just like go like this, just dip it in a vat of soapy water, shake it.
That's something you would do.
Shake it, and then let it dry.
The dishwasher, no.
Okay, last question.
Oh, there's more?
Before the battery runs out. There's...
Which one is there?
Saeed Kuman.
Oh.
Hey Toby, maybe worth discussing the
yeah.
very interesting Samsung NX1. Could it possibly be the camera to beat all cameras dubbed super camera? I remember you did mention it a while back. Amazing specs.
Yes. We've just started to see, actually I had started to put this in the news, but then I guess I got distracted and didn't go in there. We started to see some sample images out of the NX. I do hope I'll have a review copy at some point. They are okay. The review images. They're nothing special. They seem to be about on par with Canon stuff, maybe a little bit less, especially at the higher ISOs. So, on paper, it looks great. We need to get it in the hand. We need to hear from more photographers that are using it to really hear what it's like. And I hope to be one of those photographers talking about it soon. On paper, it looks awesome. It looks like everything the 7D Mark II should have been that people wanted, because it's got that 4K video. So I'll tell you what camera is really interesting to me right now. It's the little LX100. I really like the feature set of that camera and the size of it. It's micro four thirds and a very small body with a fixed lens with a 1.7 aperture, a lot of mechanical controls. Shoots 4K for up to 15 minutes at a time. So I'm excited about that. Is that the move on signal with your hand?
That's the wrap it up signal, actually.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for watching another photo mishmash. Remember, you've got a couple of jobs. One is to go enter so that you can win this bag full of a GoPro and other extra goodies by leaving what you want to see in your hands this holiday season. And I want to hear from you. It can be in the same comment or a different one. Your dream camera components. We should get somebody to Photoshop these things up for us. Will you do that in your spare time? Photoshop up for us my dream camera?
Nope.
Okay.
Maybe.
So, no. You're very good at Photoshop, though.
I am very good at Photoshop.
The brains of this operation. And on that note, Welcome to another episode of Photo Mishmash. I'm Toby.
And I'm Christina.
This is episode 37, Dream Camera. We're going to talk about more photos from space, a spacey quadcopter, DxO mark scores, trustworthy, and lots more.
That was so cheesy. You're like, should we trust them? Who does that?